Welcome to Security Speakeasy, where we talk about all of things security. Today, we're talking about the importance of an advanced malware prevention engine for network security. My name is Olivia Vort, and I'm a product marketing manager at Palo Alto Networks. And today, we've invited Michael Lawson, a technical marketing engineer on our advanced wildfire team. He'll be diving into why advanced malware prevention engines are essential in today's threat landscape. I'm really excited to have Michael here today as the expert on the subject.
Thanks for the introduction, Olivia. Always excited to be talking about malware and staying ahead of the bad guys.
So cyber threats are evolving at an alarming rate. No one wants to be caught off guard. So let's dive right in.
Absolutely. So Palo Alto's Unit 42 and the advanced malware team have highlighted some stats about the current threat landscape.
I heard that cyber attacks have doubled recently. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a trend they're seeing across the board, and there's a lot of factors contributing to that.
What are those factors?
Well, let's start with the question. So do you think it's easier or harder to become a threat actor these days?
I would imagine it's harder considering all the advances in detection technology.
Yeah, that's a fair guess, but the summation is really that it's actually easier. So the rise with ChatGPT and other LLM tools out there has really lowered the bar for the world of threat actors. With a little bit of coaching, you can have an LLM creating payloads, combining multiple layers of obfuscation in no time, and then you can even have it create all the cloud automation scripts for it. So you've got a piece of malware, then it creates a whole attack landscape for you to launch on your cloud server of choice.
So what you're saying is that threat actors are using tools like ChatGPT to create malware?
Yeah, if you've ever used one of these tools, it just takes a few moments and some prompts to create a program, and threat actors can do the same thing.
It's pretty wild. Speaking of fast-moving threats, let's shift gears a bit and talk about zero-day exploits. What exactly are those and how do they play into this landscape?
Well, firstly, it's important to talk about, or understand what the difference between a vulnerability and an exploit is, right? So a vulnerability is like leaving your key under your doormat. An exploit is someone finding that key and using it to open your door. In software and IT infrastructure, it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's the same thing. So it's a vulnerability is a vulnerability system or a piece of software that's discovered and then exploited by attackers before the developers or anyone else even knows about it.
That's a really great analogy. It really puts into perspective just how critical it is to stay proactive about identifying vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. The fact that these holes in security exist without anyone knowing makes it even more dangerous.
Yeah, you can think of it like a hidden back door, that nobody knows about except for the hackers. And because nobody knows about it, can't patch it, it can't be fixed.
So it sounds like even if you're staying on top of your updates, you're still vulnerable to those hidden backdoors.
Exactly, and that's what makes them so dangerous. And no one knows about them until it's too late.
That's terrifying. And then there's the new wave of sophisticated malware, right? Malware that can detect whether it's in a virtual lab or a real environment.
Yeah, it's incredibly tricky. The malware is self-aware and it's designed to evade detection. Instead of just launching an attack or executing as it normally would, it sits tight and it waits to see if the coast is clear and if it's if it's in the real world or stuck just in some sort of kind of digital holding cell.
Okay, so it's a way for the attackers to make sure they're not wasting their time on a system that's just going to neutralize their malware. So, with all of these advanced evasion tactics, how on earth does any system keep up?
Well, that's where you need to make sure your analysis tool set is using a multi-technique approach.
Can you walk us through that? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, so instead of just relying on one method, your analysis framework needs to combine several tools at the same time. So like a detective using all the tools at their disposal. They wouldn't just rely on fingerprints, but they'll dust for prints, they'll look for DNA evidence, eyewitness counts, video, everything that they can collect and observe to come up with a verdict.
So it sounds like the system is using several methods to analyze and detect the threats. Can you talk a little bit more about how this works?
Sure. So the newer platforms, use this similar type of approach. So they use dynamic analysis where you run the piece of code in a secure environment, and then you observe what it does. But to observe it, these newer systems do this introspectively or out of guess. So there's nothing running in the operating system for the malware to look at because if they see it, they won't run. Um, then they also include the ability to emulate dependencies that the malware is going to look for. The malware will look for all these environmental libraries. If one of them's not there, it won't run, so they'll emulate it. And then you need to be able to analyze memory in real time, right? And all that combined with really solid static analysis where you're kind of just dissecting the code and examining the blueprints for any weaknesses.
So it really sounds like it's like looking at a threat from every possible angle to understand not just what it is, but what it's designed to do.
Yeah, and this is where, I'd be remiss if we had a cybersecurity talk and we didn't mention AI, but it's where machine learning really plays a critical role. Rather than just analyzing what's happening right now, machine learning helps predict the future behavior. So having a detective is not only really good at spotting clues, but also can anticipate what the criminal might do next based on patterns that they've seen before.
Okay, so it's really just not about reacting to the threats, but constantly adapting and learning from new data to stay ahead of the attackers.
Right. And predictive capabilities is the key. And it's why cloud-based platforms are so important. They can continue to analyze new threats in real time, building up this massive database of indicators. And then using that data, they can identify and block even the most cleverly designed attacks.
That's extremely impressive. Now, I kind of want to shift gears here a bit. I've heard about packed and encrypted malware. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so when you wrap a present, you want to disguise it and make it a surprise, right? Cyber criminals use the same tactic to disguise their malicious code. They use a tool called Packer to hide what it looks like, right?
So they're essentially hiding the threat in plain sight.
Exactly. And so to legacy or traditional systems, they're basically invisible. They won't be able to see it. So an advanced tool set is able to unpack, decrypt, and expose the malware's true intent. Wrapping that malicious code in layers of digital camouflage, if you will. So many traditional systems might not even realize it's malware.
Okay, so we've got packed malware, and then I know there's flawless malware, which sounds even sneakier.
Right. This type of threat operates entirely in a computer's memory. Doesn't leave those telltale files or things laying around for us to clean up, and come and identify later. So it's operating there, stealing data, wreaking havoc. You might not even know it's there, at least not by traditional means. And you need systems that can monitor memory in real time and detect this abnormal or anomalous behavior, even if the malware leaves no traditional, footprint.
That's incredible. Now, with all of these advanced techniques in play, how important is global presence when it comes to detection and response?
Well, cyber attacks aren't confined to one region. They can come from anywhere, and they aren't limited by geography.
So it's not just about being in the cloud, but about being everywhere to protect you, no matter where the threat originates.
Exactly. With sensors worldwide, a cloud-based system can flag and stop threats before they spread. That gives you a huge advantage because you can detect and respond to threats much faster. If something pops up, like in, let's say, London, um, a cloud-based system with a global presence can flag it instantly and prevent it from spreading to New York or Tokyo or anywhere else. And that global reach also gives security professionals a much broader view of the threat landscape. They can see patterns, trends, and emerging threats that they might miss if they're only looking at maybe just London, right?
So it's really like piecing together a giant puzzle of global threat patterns.
Yeah, the more information you have, the clearer the picture becomes, and that allows you to stay ahead of the curve and anticipate and mitigate threats before they become problems.
Okay, so what's the next must-have capability in a malware prevention system?
Oh, this is my favorite one, right? Predictive capabilities. To use a Hollywood reference, pre-crime. It's not just reacting to threats after they've happened, but getting ahead of the curve. On the technical side, this is where using family-based signatures become crucial, offering a more effective solution than traditional hash-based signatures.
Can you explain more about family signatures?
Sure. Think of it if you're trying to identify a criminal, a hash-based signature is like relying just on their fingerprint. You get a perfect match, great, you've identified them, done. But if they change one detail, a little scar, a little bend change, whatever in their fingerprint, it's useless. And malware authors know this, so they're constantly tweaking their code and making these tiny changes to evade detection. So where family signature comes in, instead of just looking at the fingerprint, they look for deeper connections, shared characteristics that link pieces of software or malware together, even if they've been modified. So it's looking at their face. You're recognizing criminals like their MO, right? Their style, tactics, and telltale signs that give them away no matter how they try and disguise themselves. It's a broader, more adaptive way to detect threats.
So it really sounds like we have to be thinking one step ahead. All right, so to recap, any strong malware prevention solutions should offer cloud scale, a global presence, easy deployment, and predictive capabilities to stay ahead of evolving threats.
Exactly. And that means developing a sophisticated security solution, solutions that are constantly evolving and investing in newer detection capabilities. So they can not just react to threats, but also anticipate and mitigate them before they become a bigger issue.
As we wrap up, Michael, what's the key takeaway you want our audience to remember?
Cybersecurity is not a set it and forget it thing, right? It's an ongoing process. You have to continually be evolving and evaluating your solutions, and the ideal solutions that you implement need to be able to evolve and adapt with the landscape as it changes too.
Great advice. Thank you so much for all of your insight, Michael. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you for joining us at Security Speakeasy to discuss why advanced malware prevention engines are essential in today's threat landscape.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you everyone for watching. If you like the show, click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and visit paloaltonetworks.com.